Hey, welcome back to Successful Thinking. Today I'm going to talk about something that I think is really important. Um, Remember also that for me right now, um, I'm mostly talking about these, uh, these attributes, these traits of success um, from the standpoint of a student, because I am still a student. And I might be a very low level student, but one thing that I do know is that um, when you actually teach, when you actually talk and you teach these things, you are able to actually become better at it. And you learn four times faster when you teach something to someone else. So by teaching or by talking about these topics to YouTube, I hope not only to help somebody on their way, but also, it benefits myself. And I would also encourage other people to do this as well. Actually, if you really need to learn something, think about teaching it to other people. Because when you do that, you'll be able to learn four times faster. Because your brain has to process all the information in a way such that you can reiterate it and you can give it back to somebody through your own words. So that's what's really important. So one thing that I wanted to talk about today was something that I was going through in my famous priorities um, sheet, and it dealt with a skill. Now, most of the things in life are skills that you can build. There are many things that you might not even think of as skills, but are, that you might want to consider learning. For example, the skill of building money, that's a skill. Second, maybe skill of time management, skill of tidying up. I was reading a book not too long ago called the KonMari Method. I was also listening to it on audio yesterday. Um, but even the idea of tidying up, there's a woman who is in Japan, and she makes money as a consultant, helping people to clean their houses and making their houses spick and span, basically making it as good as possible. So even cleaning is a skill. So you can't underestimate skills. And there are plenty of skills that I'd like to talk about and go over, and also to talk about their usefulness. But one thing that struck me today that was really good was this idea of the skill of it's called the skill of building desire. Now, isn't that interesting? Can you imagine this? Imagine if you were a master at this. Imagine if you were able to actually pump yourself up, um, and then go out and do whatever you needed to do. I think that's really important. Building desire towards your goals, building desire to what you want out of life. I think that life isn't worth living unless you have something that you have worth living for. And in order to have something, you have to learn how to build desire in order to get that goal. Now, when I kind of I put this as something on my top list of things that I should evaluate every day and practice every day, so I'm going to start doing that. Part of that desire comes from actually doing stuff like this, helping out and contributing to a society, YouTube, that I've consumed a lot of. And I think that there's an interesting thing that I've heard about, because I'm Christian, born Catholic, still Catholic, but Christian nonetheless. And somebody I know that was close to me gave me a video, and you can find it on YouTube if you wish. And it was about being a man, and seen from a Christian perspective. And part of being a man is being able to switch from having an identity of being a consumer to being a producer. See, when we're kids, we're used to consuming things, consuming food that our parents give us, and consuming maybe toys, consuming our time with toys and games that have been given to us. So we're consumers when we're children. the moment you're an adult is when you switch from being a consumer to a producer. So instead of consuming food, you're producing food, like you're cooking for yourself, and whatnot. Now, to be more of an adult, the idea is to actually to produce for others, being able to produce for more and more people. So I think that's really important, being able to produce for more people. And that's something that I want to do, starting with this, and who knows what will happen. I like to talk, and I like to kind of sort my emotions out. So this is how I kind of do that. So anyways, being a producer. Now, this idea of building desire, skill of building desire. Well, I asked myself a few questions. I didn't do much research. First, I like to ask myself, well, what do I think? How can this skill be nurtured? How can I practice it? So I tried something interesting earlier today. I tried something that Tony Robbins kind of talks about. It's like tapping into your past and going to a key moment of your life when you felt a specific way, and just focus on that and imagine it vividly, replay it back in your mind, and remember how it's like. So I did that basically. There's a story that's to be told here. Back when I was trying to get my girlfriend, it was a very long and arduous task to get my girlfriend. Mainly because we were at the stage where we would be fighting a lot, and we weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend before, but I knew I wanted her to become my girlfriend. And back then we were fighting a lot over little things. I can't even remember most of the things. You can see this pattern with most couples, and I try to want to break out of conventional patterns. But anyways, so I was fighting with her, and I guess you could say that we probably would have had one of the worst days ever fighting. We were always friends, but we were at that stage of fighting because we were at that point where we were transitioning from friends to being more than friends, and personally, considering it and everything. So, and it's kind of like we were a boyfriend it's almost like we were ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, because in the beginning, I had to pursue, and it wasn't an easy yes, I guess you can say. But anyways, so what ended up happening is that I sat down in Barnes & Noble and I was reading this book. It was by Napoleon Hill, and he was talking about the devil, basically. Like, he had this conversation about the devil. It could have been his imagination or whatever, but he still wrote this book because it was very insightful. But anyways, Napoleon Hill was talking to the devil in his book, and one thing that Napoleon Hill talked about was that the greatest thing that man could do is drift. Drifting is like absolute, it's the thing that the devil thrives on. People drifting, not having a purpose, not having a goal, just drifting. And a lot of people do drift. But I remember when Napoleon Hill, he was kind of running for his life. This was when he was running for his life, and somebody tried to assassinate him a long time ago. Funny how I'm talking about Napoleon Hill when 8 years ago I was talking about Napoleon Hill back then too. But anyways, he was running for his life, and he was scared, and he could not produce anything. And he knew that he needed to produce, the manuscript that would end up being the Laws of Success. But he was scared for a long time, and he didn't want to get out because a close friend of his was assassinated when he was trying to do something big. So anyways, what ended up happening is that, he really needed to kind of break out of what he was doing. He had to break out of the spell. And in order to break out of the spell, I believe he kept praying and praying and praying, And there were times where people did not like, well, sorry, not people, but he didn't, there were things that um, he just wasn't able to have faith in, because he was like, oh, how can I do this? How can I do that? There was a lot of self-doubt in him. And when he realized that that was the thing that was holding him back, um, what he ended up doing is that by the way, this parallels to my own life at that point with my girlfriend. I had a lot of doubt. But somehow he just believed 100% that he could do what he needed to do. And in his book, he stormed out and he did exactly what he needed to. And it seemed like an impossible task. And he had no plan on knowing how it was going to work, but he just knew that it was going to work. And I think he marched into a hotel. He didn't even have money, and he ordered like the best room or whatnot. And then he decided to, so he got back to his life, and then he started typing away again. And he got endorsements from people in a phone book. You know, he called some people, and he made things happen. Being broke or not having money and marching into a hotel and then getting the best room and then getting it, booking it, and then going to that room, and then afterwards going to the phone book and researching, you know, who can help him, and then calling people and getting help from them. That's something that's very bold and very gutsy. You know, I don't think a lot of people would do that, but he did. And I was inspired when I read that. Now, remember, this is a few years ago, so this is a story within a story. So here's Napoleon Hill, and I'm reading him. And when I read him, I get this. There's this spark in me that I kind of didn't. I didn't anticipate happening, but when I was reading this, I realized, like, this is true. This is what I needed to do. And it's funny when you have a very strong amount of certainty, you have no idea just how much impossible things can be accomplished. And so I was watching this, and I was reading this story, and I was like, oh wow, you know, and it snapped in me, because back then I was kind of broke. I didn't have much money. My girlfriend and I were fighting a lot, and I needed money. And what's funny is what I did right after is I went back home. I knew exactly what I was going to do, and I marched into this racetrack, this horse racing track. There's a horse race station near my old house where I used to live. And I went into it. I just stormed into it. And I was like, I'm going to. And what I think I did is I returned the book. I think I returned the book, Napoleon Hill and the Devil, and I got $20 back. And then I went into the race stadium, walked across the street from my house, went there, and I didn't even know how I was going to do this, but I went to the VIP room where there's all the, you know, where all the rich people are. So I went to the VIP room where you need a sports coat in order to be there. So I got a sports coat, and I bet on a horse, and I got the winning number, and I got a lot of money from it. And then I got money, and then I ate at the restaurant there. And while I was eating at the restaurant there, I called my girlfriend, and I left the most forgiving, kind of best message most loving message I could think of possible. And it was at that moment that I had in my mind the certainty that she will be my girlfriend. I didn't know how at the time, because there was a lot of things that happened between us that I felt like it'd be almost short of a miracle, you know. But despite that, despite all the obstacles, despite all the things vying to kind of keep us apart and keep me from being with her, you know, I listened to what Napoleon Hill said, and I just had that ultimate certainty, absolute certainty. So that was a point in my life that was really defining for me. And that was the first memory that came to my mind when I was doing this exercise. So fast forward many, many years later, because this was still back maybe 2011. So this is, so 5 years ago, I guess you can say. Um, I think it was probably December around that time, maybe 2010, 2011, I'm not too sure. But I read that and it gave me that memory. Um, this is just one example of how you can kind of do this. This is what I did. So in my mind, what I did for practice for about 3 minutes or for about 5 minutes, I logged into that memory and I felt the emotions that I felt back at the time when I thought things were impossible. Now, the fact that I even was able to win all that money from the horse racing thing was just crazy in general. And for me to march into the VIP room, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to pay for the sports coat, because they give you a sports coat and it's expected that you have to rent it, so you have to kind of pay for it. I didn't even have money back then. I was completely broke. But it was kind of like an experiment to myself, and it wasn't even an experiment when I did it. It was more like proof that it could happen. And absolute certainty is very important when you do something. Right now, what I want to do, my goal is to be a zero to a hero, basically. Like right now, at this point in my life, I do have a little bit of savings, like what, $1,000 or something like that. Even then, it's not readily available for me, but it's there, you know. I only have that much, and I'm starting a job tomorrow. But what I want to do is I want to be able to apply the mindset, and I want to be able to apply the things that I've learned a long time ago, and to really go off of that, and to start making a dent, in this world. I want to become a millionaire, and it's not just that I want to. I can tell you guys right now, whoever's listening, I will be a millionaire. I will. The question is how fast I can become a millionaire. Earlier today when I woke up really early in the morning, and, a strange thought entered my mind, and it said, you will be a millionaire by next year. And I'm kind of like, whoa, that's crazy. How's that possible? I can think of many ways that it can be possible. But one thing that I do want to say is that I want to be able to document this transformation. It's been about 7 years since I first read that Napoleon Hill book. I feel like there's a lot of information that I've accumulated since then, and it's almost overwhelming in a sense, but I want to be able to utilize everything. And in order to do that, I realize that I do have to talk, and I have to continuously build myself up, and there's a lot that I've gotten from YouTube, and I want to contribute back to it. There's just so much that I've learned. My dream is to contribute more than what I've consumed, making that transition again from being a child to an adult, from being a consumer to a producer, something of value and something that's really important for others. So far, there's been a lot of things that I've done that I don't really take credit for. There's a lot of amazing things that I've done. More probably will be shared as I continue these talks. Like, for example, being stranded in a town that I had no idea. I was like in the middle of nowhere in the forest, and being able to survive, and I came with $25.25, and I left with an HD TV and a Bluetooth headset, and very, very rich experiences. So that's just something that I'll have to talk about some other time. But right now, I think what I'm going to focus on are the skills that are very important for success. One of them is developing desire, the skill to build desire, and a healthy desire, which means not to the point where you're going to break your morals or become crazy in order to get something you want. You always want to have a moral compass, with you when you make these decisions. So that's very important to know too. So building healthy desire. Part of that is dedicating what you're doing not just for yourself, because it's not for you. It has to be for the greater good of other people. I kind of like what Ben Carson said. His approach was to talk to we the people. I think that it's always good when, one thing I'll say is that you will not feel better in your life than when you're able to give to somebody and you're able to really make a difference. And just having that feeling is such a great accomplishment, because you're working outside of your own means. You're giving back to the universe, you're giving back to God. You're giving back. And that's one of the best feelings you can do is to give to someone. So today, this is what I give to you, YouTube. Thank you for everything. I know there's so many things that YouTube has to offer. It's not just the great wisdom. There's also tons of hate. There's haters, blah, 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 whatever, whatnot. That's part of the territory. I'm ready for it. I don't think hate will come from people looking at success videos, unless this becomes so massively popular that, it happens. I think that, also, the idea that I'm going to be a millionaire next year sounds crazy, but, it's that idea of having that certainty, and I linked myself with that earlier today. I'm certain that I'll be a millionaire next year, and it's crazy to think about that, but, that's we'll see the power of it. Next year we'll see how we'll have this journey, and we'll see how things go. So it's going to be amazing. It will definitely be amazing. One thing that I want to be able to do too is I want to be able to get not okay. I kind of lost my thought right now, but anyways, so if things do happen and when things do happen and I become successful, I'm going to say now, and I'll say in the future, I can look back to this moment and I can be proud, future self. I can be proud now of what I'm saying and how I say it, and for being honest, talking about my own stance on things, my own political views, my own, opinions. There's no shame in one's own opinions. I don't believe that there's anything that I have that is, not unhuman, in terms of many things, So even the things that, we're not proud about as human beings, so what? Most of the other people in the world are going through the same things. We're not perfect. That's something I can say right now. I'm not perfect. But when I woke up earlier today, I had this epiphany, and it was really interesting. But the idea was that, the fact that we're seeking perfection is proof of the fact that we're seeking God. Because the universe works in opposites. So if there's an imperfect, there must be a perfect. There must be a God, or there must not be a God. So there's two realities. That's why there's atheism and there's Christianity, or atheism and maybe polytheism, or monotheism. So, so the fact that we're seeking perfection, even though we're not perfect, is proof that we're seeking God, because God is perfect. And that's what we know as Christians, for people who are Christians. And for people who aren't Christian, don't worry, I'm not going to be here to try to, impose anything, that will be defensive or offensive, to your beliefs. I believe in respecting, all kinds of different people, and everyone has their own take on religion and existence, and I can see from that point of view too. So, with that said, I think I'll call it a day. I feel very happy that I've contributed, and yeah, hope to hear from people, maybe, you know. No, no, I'm looking forward to hearing from what the community has to say. All right, thank you so much.